rock. We got one.
It is cold. We not pay our heating bill. So do I.
It's going to be 80 on Friday, right?
But it's not Friday. It's only Tuesday. Only Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
Should be for the smart Alex.
Only.
I was surrounded. It wasn't even
Starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start tonight by approving tonight's agenda.
I move the board approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Denise, when you are ready.
AJ?
Yes.
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 Angie?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And on to honoring excellence this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Hard to believe we are at quarter parent-teacher conference week, and definitely fall is in the air here this week. So, but I promise summer will be back by the end of the week. So, we do want to take time tonight. We teased this out last month, and we want to have several members of our team at Epic Elementary recognized for tonight for being named a 2022 National Blue Ribbon School. Unfortunately, Dr. Schmitz is a little under the weather this evening, cannot make it. I heard from her late this afternoon, but I will have members of her team introduce themselves here in just a moment. So I'll read a quick brief on this unbelievable announcement. As you may recall, it was just this past May that we recognized our friends from Epic Elementary for being named a Gold Star School for Missouri. It was at that presentation that I also shared that by being named a Gold Star School, they would next be competing to be named a National Blue Ribbon School, and that having known Dr. Schmitz and her competitive demeanor, we thought they would have a pretty good shot at that, and here we are here this evening. Epic Elementary has been named a 2022 National Blue Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education. The National Blue Ribbon Schools program recognizes outstanding examples of great American schools. Epic Elementary was awarded under the Exemplary High Performing Schools category. This is a quote provided by the U.S. Department of Education. National Blue Ribbon Schools serve as models of effective school practices for state and district educators and other schools throughout the nation. A National Blue Ribbon School flag gracing a school's entryway or on a flagpole is a widely recognized symbol of exemplary teaching and learning. As many of you likely know, EPIC stands for Every Person Inspired to Create. Students are inspired to be creative, equipped with an entrepreneurial and innovative spirit, and learn to engage with the community to make an impact. LPS is proud to have one of the nation's 297 National Blue Ribbon Schools for 2022 right here in Liberty Public Schools. EPIC is also one of just 8 schools in Missouri to receive this award. And finally, they were the first school in the history of LPS to be named a National Blue Ribbon School. Again, congratulations to Principal Dr. Michelle Schmitz, the entire team at Epic Elementary for this historic and monumental recognition. Let's give them a big round of applause. And I did ask those in attendance that make up the EPIC team to stand. I know everyone likes to put a face with a name, and if you could stand and introduce yourself and your role at EPIC, and we'll go one by one. Let's start with Linda here in the front.
Yes, you can't see anybody behind me. I'm Linda Klein, and I moved from 4th to 5th grade, so short in 5th grade with the same kids.
I'm Jennifer Mopsy. I started out in fourth, and now I am special education at Epic.
You want to introduce your guest?
Oh, my daughter who just came from dance, Miss Rowe.
Row 2.
Deb Haywood, 5th grade at Epic. My name is Miranda Miles. I teach 1st grade. Patrice Clark, administrative assistant. And Christine Torres, 2nd grade.
I'm Adrienne Darnell, and I teach 3rd grade.
I'm Robin Woolman, and I'm the building dispatcher.
And I'm Megan Thompson. I teach 3rd grade.
Fantastic. Again, thank you for being here tonight. Let's give them another big round of applause. I have a certificate, and a couple of the ladies asked maybe if I just bring that with me to Epic, as we'll be there coming up tomorrow. So with that, that concludes Honoring Excellence for this evening.
Thank you, Dallas. Appreciate that. We will take a brief moment, maybe 5 minutes, to go out and congratulate those folks from Epic for the great National Blue Ribbon School. As a reminder, if you would like to do public comment tonight, just complete one of the blue cards out there and hand it to Denise here, and we'll get that taken care of in the next section. So we'll take, I don't know, 7:15, which I know you guys are going to go to 7:20, but we'll try.
We'll start early. Well, it's too far out.
All right, seeing no blue cards this evening, we'll move past public comment into consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval by the board by a single motion. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member.
I move the board approve consent agenda items 3.01 to 3.07.
Second?
And Denise, when you're ready.
AJ,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
motion carries.
And into reports from administration, starting with innovation and learning.
On her way to the podium is Dr. Julie Moore for our Innovation and Learning Report. I'll turn it over to her.
Good evening. Tonight we have reports for you, including the instructional design from Dr. Westfall, assessment, evaluation, and testing from Christopher Hand, library media services from Andrea Sumi, fine arts from Aaron Money. In addition, we have an updated scorecard, which includes just some updates to ACT, the senior graduation scores, and then the latest iReady fall scores are included. Finally, there's a family and parent engagement report for DESE under Title I and Title III, and that is coming from Dr. Meisenheimer. We are in the midst of parent-teacher conferences this week, so hopefully you've been able to get out, or will be able to get out later this week. With that, conferences are face-to-face, as we've mentioned, with the option for Zoom if parents so choose that. And we'll get those participation rates for you here in the next couple of weeks. We also just finished administering Panorama to students and staff. We were able to dive into the results this past Friday, preliminary results. Many areas to celebrate, including increases in belonging, school climate, school safety, and teacher-student relationships. So we have some schools, which we'll share, had anywhere from 20 percentile point raises to 50 percentile raises. So a lot to celebrate with that. And we will share that with you soon. And then Dr. Westfall wanted to share that she did a CBL survey with middle school staff, and we had about 115 staff members who participated in that survey. And one of the things that she made available was her coming to the buildings and talking to them, answering any questions, clarifying, and doing any professional development. So starting next week, she's going to go on early release Wednesdays to the buildings and meet with staff who would like some clarification or just need some more support. And that is our report, if you have any questions.
Any questions of Dr. Moore this evening?
No questions. I'd just say that in-person parent-teacher conferences was such a nice change of pace, and just appreciate
Isn't it nice?
appreciate everything, and it's just nice to feel normal.
I went yesterday and got suckered into the book fair, which I haven't had to do in a while, and it's been a lot of money there.
Can I add a contrast to what Mr. Marriott said, and that is we, as our kids are a little older, so they're in high school now, but we have appreciated the ability to set up Zoom calls,
Yes.
because then that gives us a little bit more time with each teacher. So
Yeah.
again, the ability to offer both, right? As
Yeah,
younger
absolutely.
kids, we absolutely loved that face-to-face time, but now we have the opportunity, and we're those parents, we're still going to have secondary parent-teacher conferences, so our kids love us. But yeah, glad to be able to offer both, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, second
Awesome.
that. And I would appreciate, I think that the depth, the level in these reports, I just appreciate seeing from library media services and assessment and all of these reports that come on an annual basis. It's such a great way as a new board member to kind of get an in-depth look at what's going on in each group. So I just, thanks to everyone on the team that puts those together. So
Thank you.
you for reviewing
Pass
them.
that along.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Moore. Next up is 4.02 in our equity report, Dr. Andrea Dixon Sehorn.
Good evening. Good to see you. I have just really one area out of the report that I want to highlight this evening, and I have a couple of points that I want to make with that particular area of the report, and that would be around the belonging PD, which is an exciting time for us in that during the week of October the 3rd, our core collaborative PD facilitators were able to join us and to lead those building equity cadres. And remember, the conversation really was around the school's belonging goals that they had already established and have already embedded into their school improvement plans. And so what the core collaborative was able to do was to take the belonging goal and really to have kind of a twofold purpose with those. First of all, to really help the team understand how that goal can more closely align with the school's vision and mission. And then secondly, to help those teams analyze that belonging SMARTY goal based on approach that they use, which is called evidence-based equity inquiry. And it's anchored in kind of a root cause analysis approach where you really drill down to the why and the what in order to accomplish strategic goals. And so this will be an ongoing process. This was the first time that we convened, and we do have another session scheduled for second semester, late February, early March. But I want to give you some quick stats that's not in the report concerning the equity cadres. So we had approximately 177 LPS staff members participate in those building equity cadres. And as you recall, we had not only school leadership, but certified and classified support staff members as part of those cadres. The average size of a cadre was 9 staff members. So that means that there may have been as many as 13, more so at the high school level, middle school level, and as few as 5 when you think about the size of some of our smaller elementary schools. Of those 177 staff members, 20% of them were made up of school leaders. 44% were made up of certified staff members, so that's not just the classroom teacher, but it could be the physical education teacher. It could even be guidance counselor, library media specialist. And then 36% of those equity cadre members were from our classified and support staff. So I know that Mr. Anderson would be pleased to hear that. So we're talking about custodians, nutrition service managers, special education paras, administrative assistants, nurses that are part of this larger conversation with respect to what we want to see happening in our schools around belonging. And so I think that that is progress in and of itself right there. Another thing I wanted to share is that, because I know a couple of you may have wondered, well, how were those cadre members selected? So the selection process came by way of school leadership or a designee that they may have had in the building, who either asked people would they be interested, or people just volunteered to be a part of it. But it was a process vetted through school leadership. So I wanted to clarify that. And the goal was to provide balanced representation as much as possible between school leaders, certified staff members, and classified and support. Secondly, when it came to the subs that were needed for those who participated, because remember this was a half-day session, so 2 to 3 hours, those costs are being absorbed by a budget line item that we have created for the Office of Equity for this expenditure. And then lastly, we did not ask for any type of formal survey data as a follow-up to the cadres because we were just coming off the panorama cycle, so we don't want to overload folks with survey data. But what we will do, Dr. Westfall and I will be meeting with the core collaborative later this week. We'll have a debrief session. We'll kind of walk through each one of the sessions, kind of how they went, some learning lessons for us. And if we need to pivot on some things, we can do that sooner rather than later so we can make sure that we have a noteworthy experience for all of our participants, but then also so our schools can, within their own way, own approach, reach their strategic equity goals. So this is a work in progress. This is something we've never done before, and we're very excited about being on this journey. So I just wanted to share those things with you this evening, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions if you have them.
I would just love to hear your impressions. I mean, I'm assuming you were there for them, and just hear your own impressions of the work that was happening in those rooms. And
you know, actually, I have one word, and it's impressionable. Like, I sat in on 18 of the 19 school sessions. The only reason I wasn't able to sit on the 19th one is because we had board study session that day, and I could only make it to one. So I sat in on at least 1 hour's worth of those sessions. I did not want to be there for the whole time because I wanted those school team members to feel free to have whatever hard conversations they needed to have, in-depth discussions. But I have to say that the way the facilitators approached the discussions, the way that our team members were engaged and leaning in, even when conversations became difficult, it was all very impressionable to me. And I could see that the work was very meaningful, and I am expecting some powerful outcomes this school year as a result of those discussions. So there's definitely more to come in terms of what we can share future forward. So thank you for that.
Other questions of Dr. Dixon Sehorn? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Next up, Ms. Cindy Sullivan for 4.03, that being our finance reports.
Good evening. We have 2 donations to recognize tonight. A donation of school supplies from Healthy Kids Screenings Program, which is part of Stoner Charitable Foundation, valued at $1,100, including the following: earbuds to schools across the district, markers to the Early Childhood Center and elementary gifted classrooms, and Play-Doh to the Early Childhood Center. And then a donation of school supplies from Amazon MC19, which is the new Amazon Sorts Center in Liberty. That was valued at $7,000, and that was to multiple schools in the district. So we would like to thank both of them for those generous donations.
Hi, this is Daniel. I'm a homeowner's associate with
Siri. Excuse me. So we'd like to thank both of them for providing those donations to schools across the district. Very, very much appreciated. For the rest of my report, we did wrap up our financial audit a couple of weeks ago. You will be hearing from the auditor at the November board meeting. He will also be coming to meet with the Audit and Finance Committee the Monday before your board meeting. So we will be pleased to hear and receive that audit. We also entertained staff from the public school retirement system for a day. They came in and worked with their own auditors to facilitate their work, but they did so on site. This is only the second time in my tenure here that we've had that happen, and it's a luck of the draw. But it is also very enlightening to have them here and see what they like to pull. And it's just, they give us a list and then they bring more, and we pull information just to back up what we send to them. So they're just verifying the information that we send to them. So we were happy to have them, and don't expect any changes to our retirement reporting for the year. Received that report back already. So it's always good to have that verification that things are going well in the payroll department as well. We are continuing to watch state revenue collections for just any changes up or down, specifically down due to possible recession or changes in spending habits in the state of Missouri that could affect our state payment at the later half of the year. So still watching that and keeping an eye on the proposed tax reductions that the governor has been talking about for quite some time. So that's always something to keep on our watch list as far as keeping our budget up to date and knowing what to start our conversation in February with Team Liberty around salaries and benefits for the next year. So always like to keep tabs on that. The Audit and Finance Committee did review the financial documents. They had a couple of questions for me, but nothing that they needed to bring to you. As I said earlier, they will meet in this room on Monday, November 14th at 5:30 to receive the audit report. We potentially will have Mr. Anderson in for an update on the facility master planning process as that gets rolling again, and to talk about the financial reports. So that's it for you tonight. I would entertain any questions you might have otherwise.
Cindy, I want to know if I'm reading this. Is there a approximately $30 million difference between the expenditure budget and the operating budget? Am I reading it right? Is that the difference?
So
30 something. I'm just rounding it up, down.
It's about $20 million.
Oh, okay. I missed the number. But
the total expenditure budget is right at $190 million, and the operating expenditure budget is $170 million.
debt, and what else was it?
Operating does not include debt service. It includes everything but debt service and capital.
Okay.
So you pull those two out,
Then you
and
get
the rest is the daily operations of the district.
Got it.
Then you
Thanks.
have the debt service budget, which is funded by levy, and the capital service, or the capital projects fund that comes out of operating, but is not included in that category.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Ms. Sullivan?
Thank you.
Thank you. 4.04 then, our operations report. Turn it over to Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. I have a couple items I wanted to draw out of the report and a couple that did make the report in time. So first of all, we did want to recognize Lights On After School program, or After Dark. That is kind of in honor of the school age care program all across the country. We're going to recognize that this week. And so just appreciate the good work that Tanika Brown and her team do. And I know it's often a struggle to keep up the staffing load and serve all the parents that would like to be in the program, but do appreciate what they're doing, and they're going to recognize that later this week. I think it's Thursday. Also wanted to mention, I think it was a couple, last month or the month before, there were some questions about Liberty Middle School and some of the removal of trees on site. I had mentioned last time that we're in the workings to kind of replace those. So just to report out the detail on that, there were 32 ash trees that were all dead, and we had to remove 32. We're replacing them with 35 trees, kind of in the same general vicinity. But we're going to mix it up with about 12 different species so that if one or two go down, we're still in decent shape there. Also wanted to draw attention to the back of the room, these cabinets that we have. We're kind of putting them across the schools and all of our building sites. It's the Stop the Bleed, the AED, and then the Narcan. They're all in one spot. I think after talking it through with Safety and Security and Health Services, we thought it would be a good approach to combine that into all one space, and that way our security team can inspect them weekly to make sure everything's in there as it needs to be. So again, all school buildings have that. All district buildings have those in one place now. So I think that's a good step forward. Last, I want to talk just a little bit about COVID. If you've watched, our numbers have kind of come down again, and we're watching those, continue to watch those numbers. So the trend line is down, but we will start meeting again. We had always discussed into the second quarter that we would talk about next semester. The start of this year, we talked about potentially starting to move away from dashboard work and some of the communication pieces that we had in place. I thought we'd give it one last semester and then look to potentially pivot to next year and taking a different look at that. We're kind of leaning that way right now based on some of the initial conversations we've had. We would still have preventative measures in place. I think that will always be there. I think the testing kits might be something we continue to discuss because that's a real benefit to folks that are wanting that quick turn. But did want to kind of put that out there tonight, that that's something that we're considering as we look to next semester, is to maybe move away from the dashboard and all the reporting and communicating that we've been doing. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions of Mr. Anderson this evening?
Looks like hiring picked up maybe a little bit for some of the operations positions, knocking. That's right. No, another question, and my son, always looking to make money, can't apply for the nutrition services. No, doesn't matter.
Does he have a CDL?
He'd go get it. I have no doubt about it. But I think it's been great. And I know this is offhand, so if you don't have it, that's fine. But what's the response been as they're looking for students to come before school and after school and help out with nutrition services?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's been a really great add to what we've done. We've had some of that the past year or two. What we did this year is Tanika has connected with, at both high schools, she has a point of contact. Yep. And so they're organizing in and around how to best to get into the population. It's been a lifesaver for the program. And it's a great experience for students, and it's extremely flexible. Yeah. So some students just want to do the morning at the elementary down the street, yep, which works great. We'll just work with them as much as we can.
Good.
Anecdotally, we had a high schooler at our home the other night who had to leave early because she had to be at Kid Zone at 6:15 in the morning.
Good.
Does that and then goes to class and then goes about the rest of her day. But left a part-time job in the community to then transition over to Kid Zone and loves it. Told her mom and dad the other night that she thinks she might want to be a music educator. So then they quickly responded, because she's a senior, we probably need to be thinking about next year. So, anything else for Mr. Anderson? All right, thank you. In terms of the next 4.05 then is our Human Resources Report, and we'll welcome Dr. Mark Frost to the podium.
I'd like to start by saying thank you to my colleagues for helping me with this. So last week was my first time. And kind of a side story is I said, gosh, I don't know what to talk about. How do I do this? What did Bob say? What did Bob do? And Steve and others say, I don't even take notes. Just get up and say one thing. And it'll go real quick. I get here and I walk in and Julie has like 2 pages of typed notes. And then Andrea has her typed notes. And Cindy, I'm like, well, hold on a second. He was the only one that didn't have typed notes. But with that said, they were up here for a long time. So tonight I have 7 pages of typed notes. And so we're ready to go. Right, Julie? Yep. I want to thank you. I do have 3 things. One, just an update on Team Liberty. We met last week. 2 points of conversation. One was about the academic calendar for 23-24. We have 2 drafts. We sent out a survey to staff. We do have a consensus on the one version that they do like. It does involve a move of spring break from the third week in March to the 4th week in March. We don't know how that's going to work with other school districts, CAPS, R3, with the career centers, Excelsior Springs. So we have reached out to those school districts to share what this calendar is, and they haven't started their processes yet. So our thought process is that we will take a look at what other school districts are doing, and then we can make some adjustments from there, with the thought that we bring a draft calendar to the board in the month of December for you to review with action in the month of January. So that's one thing. We had our first meeting with the administrator group today. Cindy and I did. Christelle was there also. Mainly kind of a start meeting, just some team building, start talking about topics and issues, and we spent about 2 hours. Good conversation, but really didn't cover anything or make a decision on much, other than to start thinking about the topics that they would like to discuss. So, but we had that meeting. Second item would be some information on the membership count. So the membership count is taken the 4th Wednesday of September. It's the one official count that's used by the state. Now, with that said, enrollment goes up and down every day of the year. But for the state, it's the one number that they use. And so that number for this year was 12,309.68. And do you know why we have 0.68?
No.
Okay. So, great question. So, the reason is because we have kids that are homeschooled or go to parochial or private schools, and the state made changes probably about 14, 15 years ago that allow part-time enrollment. So, as you add that up, we're at 12,310 kids. That's down about 100 students from last year. So, basically just about the same. Any questions on that? So that's kind of the number, but as we move through the year, Dr. Tucker may say, well, we have 12,500 kids. And that's okay, because we do have 12,500. This is just a count at one moment in time, and every school district takes that count at that same time. So that's all that means. Third thing is on substitutes. It seems to be quite a topic for this year, probably the biggest fear that I had coming into this job. I went back and looked at some data, and what I found was that until the 21-22 school year, we ran 95 to 98% fill rates every day. We had months where we had 100, but then in the year 21 and 22, it dropped, and it has continued to drop into 22, 23. And so as we look at this year, the good news is that our teachers are averaging about 80% fill rate, which that's low, but that's high. And so it's high for the area, so to speak, because there are school districts running 65, but it's not 95, it's not 98, and so that's not good. And if you're a teacher at that one school that's missing that one teacher, it's a hard day because you may be splitting that first grade classroom of kiddos up among 2, 3, 4 classrooms, and that has an impact on kids, and that's what we don't like. On the support staff side, it runs in the mid-70s, and part of that is because we have 12 para jobs open. So we have to fill those 12 before we begin to fill for the other vacancies that we have. And if you look at the personnel, kind of the thing that is driving me nuts is that we recommended 36 support staff employees. About a month ago, we had 55 openings. Today, we have 60. And so we gain 36, we lose 40. And so the retention rates have really changed over the past couple of years. We have a lot more of the mobility than we ever have. So it isn't that we're not hiring 1, 2, 3 people a day. It's that we're losing 1, 2, 3 people a day. And so we're talking about that. There's a number of reasons. We're talking about upping our exit surveys and how we go about that with personal interviews. Don't know if and how we can fix that. Is what it is. So I just wanted you to know that. On vacancies, our largest day so far, we had 204. 204. So with that said, in my world, it takes about 800 substitutes to be able to fill 200 jobs. And right now, we have 380, and we split that 380 with North Kansas City. But we do have 4 recruitment dates that are scheduled, and we hope to attract some additional substitutes, hope they just want to substitute in our school district. We're also going to have a meet and greet with our student teachers. We have about 50 some. We're going to do that in the month of November. We're going to talk about a number of items, but at the same time have somebody there from Kelly Sub to try to get them signed up. Maybe just of interest, I won't talk about much more. I would say this, probably more facts than you need. Of our exempt staff, so mainly teachers, if you look at all of our leaves so far to date, and we're 30-some hundred, 39% of those are for PTO days, about 40%. We have on the support staff side, about 11% of those dates. PD accounts for about 14%, athletics about 4.5% of the absences, and COVID leave is about 3.5%. So we still have a bit of that. We give 3 days of COVID leave. So, Julie, okay? Okay. So that's it. That's all that I have.
Questions of Dr. Frost this evening?
Is Kelly Services doing the recruiting fair with you?
Yeah, so yes, we're working hand in hand. So kind of to that end, I volunteered us, and I said that we will help. And so we've received some information from them. We've sent it out to our schools, our principals, asked our principals to share it with teachers for them to try to recruit people in the community. And so, yes, so we've become much more actively engaged. On one hand, I think, well, when we contract, we shouldn't have to. On the other hand, we have to. So we're doing what we need to do to try to get more subs, again, with the hope that they sub for us. And
so once somebody says, hey, I want to do the sub thing, what's the turnaround time? Because I've heard horror stories.
The great question. So I spoke with a DESE rep probably a week and a half ago, and I said, tell me what the turnaround time is, because I was hearing from Kelly Sub that it was about 6 weeks. And she said right now we're in between, if we have the transcripts, their application, and their fingerprints, we can turn it around in 24 hours.
That's not 6 weeks.
That's not 6 weeks. Now, when we get to November and December with mid-year grads, it's going to slow up. It's going to slow down. But right now, if they simply can sign the application, right, and they can do that online, and then attach a copy of their transcripts, they are right now turning those around about 2 or 3 days.
So it just seems that the transcript is the bottleneck in this situation, I would say.
Finding them, getting them, they want official.
Sure.
And so, yep, you're right.
Is there anything we can do to help that along? I don't know, it's just
That's a great question. You know, I struggle sometimes to find mine, and you about have to write to college, and after you've been out for so many years, it kind of gets harder. But yeah, so they turn around quickly if they have those 3 things, but the transcripts are the one thing that can cause a problem.
So if you're a certified teacher, however, who's retired, don't know any of those, that want to become a substitute, what of those things do they do not need a transcript? Their certificate's already in play.
Don't do anything. All they have to do is give a copy of their certificate to Kelly Sub.
And fingerprints?
And fingerprints.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So those are the people we want.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's where we are.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for continuing to work on it. So,
Okay.
that's good.
Thank you, Dr. Frost.
All right, so he's good to sit, but I mean, is this just a fundamental issue of the unemployment rate being so low, the labor force participation being lower than it's been in a long time?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what we're feeling here?
I think it's all of that, but then hardly a week goes by, if not a day goes by, where we're having this conversation around sub-rates. We get a daily report through Kelly Services and our HR department that monitors that, both on the support staff, the operations side, but then also the teaching side. Then also it's a matter of prioritizing, making sure that we're prioritizing, and really starting with elementary classrooms, high needs special ed categories, but then also working our way up through secondary, and then getting creative as far as our solutions, whether it's full-time subs that we have that then we deploy into the field. We were talking earlier this week, Dr. Cook and I, about the idea of doing that specifically for SPED, potentially, or severe need para positions, right? So it's really, everything is up for discussion and action. Knowing that, keep in mind, you may see some of those ideas surface sooner than later with the board. We'll keep you informed and bring them to our board agenda for consideration. But what else to add, Dr. Frost?
No, I think that's well said.
We've been with Kelly Services for several years now. We've been sharing with North Kansas City for several years now, right? This isn't...
That's right.
Okay.
But now you've got Kearney.
Yeah,
So
and they
Kearney
serve
now-
other districts as well, so.
And that was the one question I had. I mean, from those strategies, I mean, we do employ some full-time subs that float. I mean, so that would be, we can't create people to come and do it, right? Which is the issue we're having with our fill rates, but maybe some ways to get creative to.
Yeah. And again, general workforce issues across any industry right now. All right. Next up then, as far as 4.06 Superintendent's Report, just a few things to point out or add to my report this evening. I did want to make mention about the upcoming election on November 8th, and so hoping that our community will be informed as to what's included on their ballot. You can access ballot language by way of voteclaycountymode.gov. It has sample ballots for all of the polling locations that you can pull up and identify what will be on your ballot come Election Day. We have received quite a few questions in and around Proposition A, which is a surtax reduction that was placed on the ballot by Clay County. People have asked what it entails and how it might impact Liberty Public Schools. A couple of quick items to make note of. A surtax is an additional tax assessed on commercial property. So if you are a commercial property owner, this particular item passes, you would benefit from a reduction in surtax. Currently, that rate for Clay County is $1.59 per $1 of assessed valuation. The proposed ballot measure is a 10% reduction in the current surtax rate, which would result in that tax rate moving from $1.59 down to $1.44. Taxing jurisdictions and public services in Clay County that are recipients of surtax revenue that would see a reduction in their revenue stream include school districts, libraries, health services, city government, law enforcement, fire departments, just to name a few. The example and impact for us in terms of Liberty Public Schools, if you were to use this fiscal year, 2022-2023, Liberty Public Schools, as a result of that 10% surtax reduction, would realize a reduction in surtax revenue in the amount of $170,000. That differs for every taxing jurisdiction, certainly, across Clay County. So we just want to encourage everyone to be informed as you go to the polls. And just as that reminder, Tuesday, November 8th, and you can access that ballot at voteclaycountymo.gov. Additionally, we've been working on our strategic plan update that you'll see a little bit later on in the agenda. That is also a theme as it relates to our real-world learning collaborative across Kansas City, as they've been working on a strategic plan to be able to sustain the work moving forward, keeping in mind that the goal by 2030 is that all high school graduates in our region not only complete their diploma, but then also obtain at least one market value asset. So that work continues. Also want to mention the Success Ready Students Network that is occurring across the state of Missouri. There are 2 innovation zones that districts can participate in, the System Design Zone and the Innovative Learning Design Zone. The scope of the network's work is around competency-based learning, innovative assessment practices, as well as real-world learning. To date, there are 27 districts, including Liberty Public Schools, in the System Design Zone, and then another 29 districts in the Innovative Learning Design Zone. To coincide with MSBA, the next Success Ready Students Network meeting is on November 3rd, and Liberty Public Schools has been asked to host that, so we'll be hosting that on that day, which coincides with the Blue Ribbon recognition in Washington, D.C. But a few of us will be there, while others will be home hosting that Success Ready Students Network meeting. As Dr. Moore mentioned, we are getting close to the end of the first quarter, so parent-teacher conferences. Want to thank everyone, our faculty and staff, for a successful first quarter and start to the school year, as well as our students and parents for their continued support. You have a small card at your tabletops that is from the Liberty Education Foundation. It has a QR code on the back. Tana did not pay me to share this, but a plug for the Education Foundation. Coming up on the morning of Wednesday, November 2nd, the Education Foundation will be hosting its annual community breakfast. That is a 7 o'clock in the morning reception and program to commence at 7:30. This year they're doing a little bit differently. It is open to the entire community and will be held at the Liberty High School Performing Arts Center if you're available to join us on the morning of November 2nd at the PAC. Last couple things I wanted to mention. Our Coffee with the Community schedule is in circulation. I appreciate Dallas and their team for putting that together. Our next one is coming up on October 27th. Focuses on safety and security, so we look forward to streaming that on Facebook Live again. We've had great participation and feedback as people are able to log in from wherever they are. Then the last thing that I had, hard to believe this is already around the corner, November 15th at our next board meeting night. Prior to that, we will have our board candidate filing workshop. And so community members interested in signing up to run for the board or just learning about candidacy and what that might entail are welcome to join us that evening. More detail to come as far as start times. Typically it's around 5 o'clock, 5:15. But we'll have opportunity to walk through an agenda, but then also allow prospective candidates to ask questions of sitting board members, but then also our administration. So be on the lookout for that information. With that said, would welcome any questions the board may have of me this evening.
You said that date is November 15th?
November 15th. That's that Tuesday, prior to our board meeting. So we'll get those specifics out in the next several days.
Other questions? Okay. Unfinished business, we'll start with the 23 Insurance and Benefits Utilization Plan.
So that's presented to you this evening for second read. You'll recall in September we entertained Holmes Murphy to walk us through kind of the review of information and what was shared with Team Liberty. We appreciate Team Liberty's work each year in diving into our renewal. We were able to winnow that down as far as our initial increase down to about an 8% increase. So you have quite a bit of information that is uploaded for you again this evening that speaks specifically to the insurance recommendation and benefits utilization over the course of this last plan year. You also have a recap or that overview that Holmes Murphy provided to you back in September. So with that said, the one item that I wanted to mention, in addition to that 8% increase, you have detailed information within the memo from me to the board dated September 20th that gives you more detail around health insurance, dental insurance, vision, life and disability, but then also our flexible spending and employee assistance programs. That 8% increase translates to an estimated $998,000 as far as an additional spend from the previous 2022 plan year. So with that said, appreciate everyone's work in getting us to this point this evening. Upon your approval, then the next step occurs as far as communicating information out to our staff, but then also that process of signing people up for their benefits. So would recommend that as presented to you this evening.
Any questions, comments?
That I appreciated seeing that process in action and greatly appreciate Team Liberty's work on it. So I'm ready to make a motion if people are ready. I move the board approve the 2023 Employee Insurance and Benefits Utilization Plan as presented.
Second. Denise, when you're ready.
AJ,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
motion carries.
Into 5.02, the strategic plan update.
You will recall about 3 years ago, we embarked on rethinking our strategic plan approach and making it more of an agile annual review as compared to a 5-year fixed plan. And so what you have presented to you this evening is the public-facing side of our strategic plan. It's about a 2.5-page document that's broken up into our vision areas and then tying to our vivid vision, but then it has vision statements, deliverables, those responsible, budgeted amounts, due dates, but then also project titles. What is not publicly facing is the project management tool or our plan workbook that we work in on a daily basis, but then report out through our strategic leadership team on an every other week basis as we gather together. Just to reiterate, our strategic plan includes really 5 areas of focus as it was informed by our community through a variety of surveys and focus groups. The first area is teaching. The second is learning in terms of student learning. The third is professional learning, followed by leadership and community. So each of our near 22 plans align to those respective vision areas which appear in that first column. We've done some cleanup on that just to make sure that all of our categories are captured there. So we would present that to you this evening as our strategic plan 2022-2023 update for your consideration.
Any questions?
No, we did a pretty deep dive of this already in our study session.
That's right.
It's
Glad you
not-
brought that up.
Not the
Yes,
first
thank
time
you.
that the board has seen this or had an opportunity to ask questions.
Yes.
I move the board approve the 2022-2023 strategic plan.
Second.
Denise, when you're ready.
AJ,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
motion carries.
Into 5.03 tonight, the Collegiate Nursing Academy.
You will notice some wordsmithing from the last time you saw this, and so we have kind of coined the title of Collegiate Nursing Academy. Because we're all about acronyms, it translates into CNA, which is awesome. So we shared that information with you earlier last month, and we have continued to work on that, but we'll bring that to you this evening for your consideration as we move forward. In the event that you all approve that, then our next step is really kind of a marketing public relations push and getting that information out early so that students can begin thinking about that, counselors can wrap their head around that and how to message that, but then certainly the work with our partners, namely William Jewell College, as well as Liberty Hospital, can begin taking greater shape. So anything to add, Dr. Moore, that I've missed?
Just that we sent the application to you in a Friday update a couple of weeks ago, so hopefully you've seen that. And Mrs. Jones and I have met with Liberty Hospital and William Jewell, and we have some dates and plans ready to go should you choose to
accept this tonight.
I am super excited about this, and this is one of those additional examples of where partnering with community members, organizations is coming together to provide great opportunities for students. So thank you all for driving this forward.
Nick, I may have missed this, but question. What were the numbers we were talking about?
For students?
Yes.
It was for the first year, it is 20 students, which is what Liberty Hospital could handle just with the clinicals.
Okay, thank you.
I move the board approve the Collegiate Nursing Academy.
Second.
Denise, when you're ready.
AJ,
Yes.
Kim Marie,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
motion carries.
And into the facility master planning.
Another item that we've spent considerable amount of time on, we'll turn it over to Mr. Anderson to provide some additional insight as we get ready for a couple of community engagement events coming up next week.
Thank you. I'll be fairly brief, but did want to kind of get you all oriented as this is where really things start to compress, and there'll be several meetings, conversations as we begin to kind of look at finalizing a potential plan to bring to you all, which potentially could go to voters in April 23. This is just a list of kind of over the next few weeks, the various activities that are taking place. I did want to highlight a couple things. First and foremost, we will be having 2 public meetings, one on Tuesday, October 25th. It's about halfway through this sheet. There'll be a public forum in the evening at 6:30 p.m. over at Liberty High School in the Black Box. And there'll also be a Facebook Live event for that. And then the following morning, we've typically done this where we have a session. It's the same session, same opportunity to participate and learn, but it'll be during the morning at 9:30. 9:30, 11, that will be actually in this room, and that'll be on Wednesday, the 26th. In addition to that, we're also going to launch later this week Let's Talk web portal that we'll kind of get in, and I'll share this in a minute on a slide, what that will look like. And then we'll also be putting together a online survey, as we typically do with these types of, with the planning process. So I'm going to advance in one slide. This is the flyer that's going out to the community, email blast, social media blast. Dallas has been working on that here today, and we'll continue to kind of message this over through the weekend leading into next week. And again, those are the dates, times, place, where to go. The architect, Kevin Nelson with House and Miller, will lead that conversation. There'll be some level of engagement with the folks that are there, but then we'll certainly encourage them to fill out the survey once that launches. And one more. This just gives you a really quick kind of overview of what the Let's Talk page will look like. It explains kind of that first area on the left is the intro. For those who've been on the Let's Talk page, you're probably familiar with this. What's different now is we kind of take it over and we move it to all the various projects. And so really the main goal here is to have anybody who's interested in learning about any of the particular projects under consideration, they can click on one of these boxes. And if you click on one of these boxes, for instance, the Epic Elementary Gym Performance Edition, which is in that first column about 6 down, they'll get to the next slide. And they'll have some basic information on the project, the cost, the square footage, some of the areas that will benefit by having this project if it were to make the final cut or the bond itself. And then at the bottom, there's going to be opportunities for questions if you have any, for just general comments, suggestions, and concerns. And then I think the last thing says compliment, if I'm reading that correctly. So it's a way, just again, to trap feedback with respect to each project. And this will launch by Friday, and then we'll kind of gather information and hopefully be able to kind of clarify any points that might be out there of concern as well. So that's just a quick recap. Again, there'll be more in the coming weeks. And then November 1st, the study session with the board will be an opportunity to kind of unpack some of those results from the survey, from those meetings, and of course from the Let's Talk portal. That's all I got.
Love this. Just noting the headlines here, project benefits being one of them. Do we have opportunities to add one in here? And I'm only going down a path of like current challenges. I know we say addresses significant space constraints. If I am not an EPIC parent, I don't know what those constraints are, right? Like having PE in the parking lot, right? Is a challenge for a number of reasons. I'm wondering if there's ways we can give like a couple of key headlines of what does this actually help us address?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's good feedback. I know it's growing. That's one of the reasons we're not launching it quite yet. We need a couple more days, putting more eyes on it, and how best to kind of succinctly put that together. We also thought between comments and suggestions and questions that we've talked about, we can easily kind of roll that back up and in to that. One other thing I did not mention, in fact, this all occurred today, Darren and Jeff, kind of our LTN Niles guys, were out taking drone footage of all the project sites. So we will have a link, so if folks want to kind of get a better sense of the area being considered, that will go live also on Friday. But yeah, if there's any feedback from anybody, of things that should be pointed out, we certainly can do just that. The last thing, this benefit area, basically there's about 10, we try to kind of characterize, and you'll see that with each project, what are those potential benefit areas that kind of pop up within each project. We try to do something that would kind of help us organize that a little bit, and so that's kind of a new thing for us, but yeah.
I do like the idea of spelling some of that out, though.
I agree. I think that the question I might get is what the order, like what is the order for all of these the black squares up on the thing? Is there a specific order? Is the district picking what it likes first? And
yeah, it's pretty random. We try to organize them by category of type of project.
Got it.
But yeah, I think that's the one thing, especially as staff and working with the architect and going. And again, this has been I probably should have led with this. It's been about a year and a half, almost 2 years process. We've kind of hit the pause button a couple times. COVID, 2 times have kind of affected our planning process for this. So we've done a lot of that legwork over time. But yeah, so as of right now, these projects are this is what has surfaced. There's 32 of them, so there's quite a few. I think the total project budget total is like $230 million. The max we have for a no tax increase bond issue is about $170. So there's quite a bit of work to do on the prioritization.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, off to new business. Oh my, already early notification incentive program.
So you've seen this one before as well. As far as year upon year, we bring this to you for consideration. ENIP stands for our Early Notification Incentive Program. The details are spelled out on that page, but really putting this in place for the 2022-2023 school year in an effort to get out in front of what we believe will continue to be some hiring challenges as we talk about workforce development issues moving forward. You'll note in black bold in the document, it speaks to the parameters of the program and that it's an incentive payment of 2.5% of the employee's base salary up to $2,500 to all eligible employees who give early notification of their retirement no later than Monday, January 9th, 2023. And then the eligibility requirements follow in terms of that program. So we would present that to you this evening for your consideration in readying for our hiring season, which is just around the corner.
And as a reminder, this allows us to your point, get out ahead, get all those folks who are currently in the pipeline looking for jobs early, so we're not scrambling at the last minute to find people, correct?
That's correct. Ideally, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments?
I move the board approve the 2022-2023 Early Notification Incentive Program.
Second.
Denise, when you're ready.
AJ?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Into 6.02, the legislative priorities.
We wanted to include this evening just really to put this on everyone's radar as we take our priorities from last year and go back to the drawing board as far as those items we carry forward as our priorities in readying for the 2023 spring legislative session. Our intent is then to bring this back at our study session in November, your final consideration at our November board meeting. That puts us out a little bit ahead of what we've done in the past, that then we can push into legislators' hands for their awareness. We also monitor and work closely with Missouri School Boards Association as they develop their priority positions Cooperating School Districts of Greater Kansas City, as well as the Missouri Association of School Administrators. Topics that we are hearing come out of some of those conversations include just a greater continued emphasis on local control, concerns in and around state funding levels, consequently revenue streams. As we hear about income tax reductions, how might that impact other revenue streams if reductions occur? Safety and security is certainly at the top of everyone's focus. Access to high-speed internet, really on a lot of our rural communities, but certainly even in suburban and urban districts where there are some kind of dead areas. Protecting local and state revenue streams, and then also charter school expansion tied to boards of education as sponsors. And I know that's a priority among a lot of districts and a lot of associations. Additional topics that we are hearing that will likely surface over the course of this legislative session. Pre-filing is December 1st, where we get a pretty good glimpse of what is going to be presented over the course of the session, but topics including open enrollment, tuition tax credits, district consolidation, and then also Parents' Bill of Rights. So we will continue to watch that, but wanted to get this in front of everyone. If you have thoughts or feedback on this, please communicate to me, and we can go from there as we ready for our study session agenda, but then also see it again in the evening of November 15th for final consideration.
6.03, the appointment of the TIF Commission representatives.
This is another item. It's a recommendation this evening that is brought forward for appointments to both the City of Kansas City as well as the City of Liberty TIF commissions. Appreciate Mr. Bartlow for serving in that capacity lately. I believe he's ready to pass the torch. And I know a few others of you have served in that capacity. So our recommendation this evening would be for the appointment of Ms. Karen Rogers and Mr. Steve Anderson, as we're afforded two positions, both with the City of Kansas City and the City of Liberty on their TIF commission. That would be our recommendation this evening moving forward to serve in those respective capacities for City of Kansas City and the City of Liberty TIF commissions.
Any questions, comments? In that case, I move the Liberty School District Board of Education the appointments of Karen Rogers and Stephen Anderson to represent the district on the tax increment financing TIF commissions of Kansas City, Missouri, and Liberty, Missouri, in all matters relating to TIF plans, TIF plan areas, TIF projects, and all amendments thereto which affect, in part or in whole, areas within the boundaries of the district. Said appointments are for 1 year from date of appointment.
Second.
And Denise, when you're ready.
AJ?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
It really has been a fun time to learn all that stuff, but it's time to pass it on. 6.04, contracts and purchases.
We do have a few items to make you aware of. We'll turn it over to Mr. Anderson to walk us through those this evening.
Thank you. There are 5 items under consideration. 2 are contracts for first approval and first read, and then there's 3 emergency purchases for policy DJF-1. The ones that are under consideration for first read, the first is with Diligent Corporation. It really has to do with kind of our subscription notice with board docs, and it needs to be expedited to help us transition quickly to their new platform. The second is with Mobility Man LLC. This was an agreement that was approved in September. We have since been notified the desire to extend it in through the rest of the calendar year. Initially it was to sunset earlier, so this is just an amendment of that previous agreement. And then the 3 emergency purchases or actions. The first is with ZFX Flying. This is flying director training provided with the Little Mermaid production at Liberty High School. This had a lot to do with scheduling and getting those folks to us in a timely manner. The second, with Power School Group, we had to commission a side project with them to help us with the grading systems and get those integrated into our Power School reporting systems. And so this would allow them to move forward as a special project, and we needed to expedite that. That is currently, hopefully, nearly done. And then the last item is with Quality Plumbing, and that was a backflow device that Lily and Schumacher needed repair. I'd be happy to take any questions.
On the Mobility Man one, and I know it's 200 per hour, but do we have roughly an idea of how many hours they're using?
I do not.
So it's just curiosity.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jeanette might know that.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
I move the board approve the agreements with Diligent Corporation and Mobility Man LLC and the emergency actions as listed.
Second.
Denise, when you're ready.
Sorry, who was the second?
Me.
Angie?
Thank you. AJ?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Into section 7 with the Board of Education. Angie, I believe you may have had some conversation today about legislation and advocacy.
They met with the delegates for the delegate coordinators for the state. There's a delegate assembly at MSBA. AJ and I are both delegates, but anybody else is invited to attend. It is where MSBA sets their legislative priorities. Also, they talked about Jim Moody will be there to discuss the impact of the governor's thought processes on cutting taxes and what that is going to mean to school districts. So that was a suggestion of a place to go. In that meeting, the MSBA conference will be at Bartle first weekend of November. So if you're interested in seeing what the delegate assembly has to discuss, come and hang out. Sometimes they have food.
Thank you, Angie, for serving in that role.
Yes.
AJ as well. Upcoming meetings, you'll find there. We've got a study session on November 1, right after Halloween, so be ready for that. Anything for board remarks 7.03 tonight?
I would like to welcome Jackson Zimmerman from Liberty High School Stuco. He has taken on the lovely task of coming to our board meetings as part of student council, and they're working on their student council process, and so Jackson comes and hangs out and gets information, and I'm assuming it goes back to the council.
In fact, tomorrow we have a meeting where I'm going to share a report with everyone.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Be sure to talk about that early notification incentive program.
I want to say thank you to people who have signed up or promoted the Youth Mentor program. I know that there's been, post-pandemic, a lot of the people who've been serving in those roles have moved on, and there is a great need, so it's not too late to sign up, and so hopefully we'll get some more, but I just encourage people to keep sharing on social media and reaching out to folks to volunteer. So.
And I just wanted to, I enjoy seeing you guys, but my favorite meeting is the character traits meeting with students. It's not to disparage any of the board members, but just wanted to thank our partnership with the chamber and the sponsors of that, and what a good job they do in Hy-Vee hosting it, and what a good time it is. So it's good to get that time with kids. So.
Mm-hmm. I just have a comment about Epic Elementary. I don't try not to get too emotional about it, but you know how I am. So I don't know if anyone but me remembers that when we started Epic, it really was a community vision. It was not just the school district, but it was parents and a lot of different people giving input into what that could look like. And so we really created that vision together, and it set the stage for a lot of innovation that we're continuing to engage in today. But we would not be able to do it without co-creating that vision with people in our community and people across the state, and lots of input for what the future can look like. So, thank you.
Born out of a necessity, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right. It was out of necessity,
right?
But it was an opportunity.
Yes.
So because of the necessity, we were forced into a place where we had to think of things differently, and so that gave us license to be completely creative.
Yeah.
And because we listened to the community as well, there were more creative ideas.
Mm-hmm. And for all the people that have worked on that,
For
there
all
have
of the
been
people.
so many people. I mean, everyone from the parents, the students, the staff,
Yep.
district administration,
And to
It's a lot of work.
To the educators who every day sign up to do that work, that's very different, and the parents who just kind of took a leap of faith that it was going to work. And the evidence today is that
It does.
it's working.
It's a great place to visit.
Okay, that's all. That's my piece.
No other remarks? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I move the board adjourn.
Second. Denise, when you are ready.
AJ?
Yes.
Kim Marie?
Yes.
Drew?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Motion carries.